On the day I was released from prison, I found $1 billion by accident. I immediately dialed my father's number in excitement, but he hung up on me every time. I was worried that something had happened at home. I ran all the way home, but as soon as I reached the door, I heard my brother's wife complaining. "Why did he come out? Shouldn't this kind of criminal die in prison?" Mom replied, "When he comes back, we'll kick him out and let him die a poor man's death." Listening to their conversation, my heart dropped to the bottom. I was in jail because I had to replace my brother. I also paid for this house. I cared for them with all my heart, but they did this to me. I wanted to turn around and leave, but I couldn't help knocking on the door. My mother opened the door and feigned surprise. "Ethan, you're back so soon. Your father just mentioned he was going to pick you up." After saying that, she looked me over, forcing a pained expression. "You've suffered and lost so much weight over these years." How I wished I hadn't heard her conversation at the door and that her concern was genuine. I responded with a tinge of bitterness. "It's okay. Taxis are convenient." I walked into the house as I spoke. Vivian immediately came over and sprayed me with alcohol as if trying to pour the entire bottle on. "Don't think too much of it. I'm just using alcohol to cleanse you of any bad luck," she said, trying to make me not think too much of it. But her face was full of undisguised disdain. She despised me for being an ex-convict, but she seemed to have forgotten that I went to jail for her and Leo. Without saying a word, I walked straight to my room. "Don't bother looking. There's no room for you in this house," I heard my father say as I took a few steps. He was sitting on the sofa, smoking, with the ashtray filled with fresh cigarette butts. My arrival seemed to make him very upset. I stopped and looked at him. "Dad, I've only been in prison for 3 years. I didn't die. Do I not even deserve a room in this house?" Dad put out his cigarette and said with conviction, "There are so many of us in the family but only a few rooms. There's no spare room for you." I didn't argue with him but asked, "Where's Leo? Does he feel the same way?" At this time, Leo came out of the bathroom and looked at me with some difficulty. "Ethan, Vivian is 2 months pregnant. If you live at home, the rooms really aren't enough. But it's okay. You're my brother. Everything will come first for you. If you really want to live here, I'll make room in the baby's room that was already prepared." Leo was quite straightforward with his response. I nodded and said directly, "Sure, she's not due for another 8 months. I'll just stay here for a while." Upon this, Leo's expression froze. He moved his lips as if wanting to say something but stopped himself. Vivian couldn't hold back any longer, storming over and shouting at me, "How can you be so selfish? Can't you see the house is cramped? And you actually have the audacity to take our baby's room. You've got some nerve." I couldn't help but laugh at her anger, looked at her and replied, "We all used to fit. I've just been to jail, and your child isn't even born yet. Why isn't there enough room now? And have you forgotten that I paid for this house in full?" My father slammed the table abruptly and said in a stern voice, "Ethan, watch your attitude. Do you think it's great that you bought a house with a full payment? You want to take the house from us when you had just gotten out of prison?" I responded with disappointment. "Am I asking you to give me the house? You won't even offer me a room to stay in." I said, "From that, there's no room for you at home. If you want to find a place to live, rent a house by yourself. We don't owe you anything." My father glared at me, making it clear that I was no longer welcome. A fine thing to say, not owing me anything. "You all pleaded with tears in your eyes for me to take the fall for Leo. You said that if I took the blame, I would be the family's benefactor, and you would repay me. All I want now is to live in the room that was originally mine. Is that too much to ask? Is this how you intend to repay me?" I spoke each word with a whirlwind of emotions churning in my chest. It was Leo and Vivian who had been driving my car, speeding and driving the wrong way, when they hit someone. My parents immediately came to me. They said they had worked so hard to get Leo into a prestigious university with a bright future ahead of him, and that this accident must not ruin his life. I, on the other hand, was just an ordinary employee at a small company with a future that paled in comparison to my brother's. So, they begged me tearfully to take the blame for Leo, saying the family would be grateful and repay me once I was released from prison. I didn't do it for any reward. I did it out of love for my parents and for Leo, sacrificing my own future to take his place in prison. To protect Leo, I sold my car, depleted my savings and lost my job. I paid compensation, took the blame, and bore all the insults on his behalf. 3 years in prison were a torment I endured, but I bore it all. But I never expected that instead of a deeper sense of family, what awaited me was utter betrayal and a blow.
Now you can watch the second part by pressing share and more.